live. Hello, YouTube. This is BUB'S Comments coming at you. Coming all the way at you. Watch this. With the no faces, all hands comic chat. Tonight, our special guest is the invisible mute and deaf, dumb, and blind man. Say hello. All right. We appreciate that. We hope you keep live all chat long. And other than that, with us as always, we have Roger, aka Metarog, aka Where the Heck Were You Last Week, ditching us for some family engagement, I'm sure. Roger, say greetings, everyone.
Well, greetings, everyone. It's great to be back.
Wow. Do you do voicemails? Can I get you to be my outgoing message? Greetings, everyone.
Certainly, for a price, anything is possible.
Of course. Oh, I see how it is.
I'll give you the special discount, of course.
I can't afford you. I can't afford your generosity. Sure. Half off, 3 times the price. And with us, as always, we have DS Comics. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. And welcome back, Roger. I can already tell the chat was about to. There's about to be a coup if you weren't back. Everybody was Roger back. Is Roger back? Then it will be good. I'm glad he's back. He's the president, etc. So
I'm very honored, and of course, I missed you guys quite a bit on Monday. Even though we were having a good time, still I was like, there's something missing on Monday. You know what I mean? It's just weird.
That's how we felt too.
Center. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got with us in the chat already Pope Cerebus I. And let's see, we've got Knights of Old. He's already claiming that this better be good. Well, here's the deal, Knights of Old. If this doesn't meet with your high standards of entertainment quality, I'm willing to give you a full refund minus return shipping and handling. So There you go. Now we got Mr. Gretzky 9966 saying hello, clamoring for Roger. Good to have you. DS Comics, of course, in the house. We got Immortal Biggie Shacks here. Werewolf by Lunchtime. Area 51. The list is going on. We got Michael Dodd. The Gray Man's in the house. Bigglesworth. Hello, Bigglesworth. We got From Heroes to Icons. Broke because of comics. Man, I'm telling you, we're blowing it up tonight. Thank you all for being here. And yes, Biggie Shack, we missed Metarog completely, yes, but now he's back, and we can't wait to miss him again. So then we've got
what? Hold on a second. What did I just hear?
You gotta go before you can be missed. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and I was about 1 week away from getting fonder. So next we've got thank you all for joining us in the chat. This one is all on DS. So what is our team name this week, DS Comics?
Something about invisible red eye.
Yes, that's it. The invisible red eye.
Yeah.
Which needs no treatment. Yeah.
I took that flight. You take Wonder Woman's jet across America, that's the invisible red eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, there you go.
Let me tell you, it's a heck of a view, but boy, you're nervous going over, the high mountains and so forth. Oh man.
I'm sure of that.
I don't know. Well, we've got from the Bud Root Superstars. That was awesome. Best name ever.
That was good. Yeah.
You guys, whatever. We're the invisible.
Was it all?
And I didn't go back and change it.
Superstars in the other part, so it was a variant. We had a variant title last.
Oh, you had a variant title. I should have been there.
Yeah. Next week, the chat's going to be remind me why I keep you guys on. That's gonna be my chat for next week.
Done deal.
We're
gonna need more than an hour though. Me and Roger.
We're the invisible eyesores, DS and Roger. The invisible eyesores. That's us.
I do like that. I like that name because it relates to the topic that you put out in the email. I like that.
Yes.
Clever.
Thank you.
Very nice.
That's true. Oxymoronic though, but true.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Well,
All right,
okay.
we've got.
I'm with you. I'm not going to argue that point at all.
Area 51 wants to know, how does the Invisible Woman find her jet when she parks it?
Well, the Invisible Woman doesn't have a jet. It's Wonder Woman that has the jet.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's a trick question. That's sort of like how many cylinders does a 357 Chevy from '58 have? Well, they didn't make it. So yeah, no. Wonder Woman, and it's actually not an invisible jet. It's actually more of a clear jet because some of the components you can still see inside.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
I've not been aboard. I've not been aboard the Clear Eye, the Invisible Clear Eye. I think I once took the very visible Pink Eye. It was it was a flight from Cleveland to I think Nantucket. It's pretty rough.
Now, here's a good question: does the Invisible jet have a toilet cubicle? I can answer that. It sure does. It absolutely does. Yes. But you have to be, it's a tight squeeze back there. Let's just put it that way. Very tight squeeze back there. Oh, by the way, Biggie is asking if you got a shot of him for the no face.
Yes. Why not?
Is he volunteering? Is that what
he volunteered like 2 weeks ago?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we're good on that.
Hey, Biggie, good to see you here, buddy.
So tonight's topic, since you guys just go off all the rails, just all over the place, we're gonna bring it home. Tonight's topic is about yes, frequently. It's about restoration and conservation. It's a restoration and conservation conversation. Did you catch all that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Looking at you. All right.
And you forgot alliteration at the end, but otherwise, top marks, Bub.
I didn't want to put any more in the subject line. It takes too long to read it. You just end up getting 3 dots. Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. So I figure, appropriately enough, DS should start us off and tell us what the heck we're talking about here.
Well, the reason I suggested that we talk about something like this is it's just, it's a relevant, substantive, good topic that everybody cares about. And there's 2 things that came to mind to me over the last week. One is that I have 1 book in my collection that is restored or conserved or anything. It was restored. And I sent it out, and it's getting the restoration removed. So hopefully we'll not have any more restored books in my collection at all. So that's exciting for me personally. I'm just a collector who doesn't like to have any restoration on any of my books. I'd rather have a low-grade beater, just honest wear. But so that was one thing. The other thing is I've just seen in several different chats over the last week just some collectors that weren't sure if something was qualified as restoration or conservation, or if how tape would affect it. Is that restoration? Things like that. And it's a tough topic to wrap your head around. If you're a younger collector or newer collector, or really if you aren't collecting a lot of real old books, you may not encounter a lot of this stuff very often. And if that's the case, you are blessed, let me tell you. But when you start getting to older books, Silver Age, Golden Age especially, you get a lot of issues on books that you get, especially raw books. And it's not real easy initially in the hobby when you get into it to tell, how is this going to affect the grade? Is this going to be a purple label? And it's hard to know if you should make a purchase, how much you should pay for something. You don't want to necessarily buy something that's going to get a restored label. You may not be sure. You may not know who to ask, or you just you might want to throw it out there. Sometimes people think that everybody knows something and you don't know it, and you don't want to look stupid and ask, when in fact there's lots of people that have that question that don't ask and that doesn't get answered. And it's just I don't know, it's a good topic to cover from time to time, and it's just a relevant, good topic. And I think most collectors prefer not to have any restoration. Some draw a really hard line like me. I won't I'll pass up Grails if they're restored. Some people don't mind; they'll get it removed. Some people don't mind having, Knights of Old is one. He collects, timelies that are very rare, very early timelies, and those type of collectors. There's not a lot to choose from, and they're expensive. And if you can get one that has a little restoration or conservation, it's not a big deal. So there's just a lot of aspects to it, and I just thought it would be a good open-ended discussion. I don't have like a bullet point list here, but that's why I chose the topic. So I'll throw it back to you guys.
Well, I definitely have a question. So how about we run this, since you are the definite authority on this, and Roger can tell us how a pressed book used to be considered restored, but I don't know how much he knows about current restoration standards versus how labels work and grades and things of that nature. But I would say that let's just fire some questions. I did. I did.
Yeah, and
telemarketer from Mississippi.
Before we start, let me just throw out there. I'm not an expert, but I've encountered more of this stuff than the average collector, but probably not more than the average Golden Age or Silver Age collector. So when it comes to Golden Age, I feel like I'm probably I can hold my own in a restoration discussion type thing. But when it comes to collectors who are maybe newer in the hobby or collect more modern type books, I would say I have a more than average knowledge base than them, just because I deal with a lot of beat to hell rags, and that's an issue on a lot of them. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not an expert, but I know more than some and less than others, and it just depends on what group I'm in the discussion with, I guess. So, but yeah, if you want to fire some questions out, we'll just go from there and see where it leads. So I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So the first question that I have, if you don't mind, is, and it may be my only question, but so as you know, I was restoring this, or what I considered to be kind of I don't know. I guess it's a fine line between restoring and conservation. So, but I think I was more or less restoring it, but I don't know. This book is so low grade that I just feel like it was going to get it's going to be a 0.5 no matter what, right?
Well, we're missing the back cover.
Huh?
Why is it going to be a 0.5?
Yeah. It's missing the back cover.
Yep.
Yeah, if it's missing the back cover, it's going to be a 0.5 incomplete. Yeah.
Incomplete. But now
for it.
Now it has a back cover.
Oh, nice.
So
married cover.
It also has a married page here. That page is married. That page, this page is married. The advertisement.
Yep.
Because it was out. It was cut out. And that's it. And also, I'm pretty sure, and the cover it was already married when I got it. So the cover and the first page, the splash page, I believe come from a different book because they have the same amount of wear on it that it's different from the rest of the book. So 2 interior pages, a back cover, and a splash page and front cover all potentially came from different books or not from this original book.
Yeah.
So to me, that would have been a 0.5 because now it's married. I assume either way, the difference between green and silver doesn't matter, does it? I mean, once it's got married, it's going to be a green label, isn't it?
Green labels are probably the most understood animal in grading, and we can have a day-long discussion about green labels, but essentially there's 2 reasons that CGC uses a qualified label. That's the green label. And one is if a piece is married, and that means a piece from another copy of that book. Pieces from 2 different copies of the same book are basically pieced together to make one complete copy. So you had a Daredevil with no back cover. You grabbed a back cover off a different Daredevil and put it on your Daredevil, and now you have a complete Daredevil, but it's made of different parts. It's like a Frankenstein Daredevil, but all the parts are from Daredevils. So it's complete. But if you marry parts to a book, it will get a green label no matter what. Now that doesn't affect the grade. Your grade will be what they'll grade the book however the book is. I mean, you've got a complete book. It's got it's got tears, it's got soiling, it's got creamed off white pages, it's got a spine split, whatever. it's going to get a grade, but the grade is going to be on a green label because you have a married, and it doesn't matter. It could be a 9.8, it could be a 0.5. It's not going to matter. It's going to be green if anything's married to it. So that's number one. That's an easy one. Anything married, automatically green no matter what. And then they just grade it how they grade it. The other type is if a single defect has more than a 2-point effect on the grade by itself, they will give it a green label at the higher grade, not counting that defect. So for instance, if you have a book that is perfect, pristine 9.8 condition, but the centerfold's detached, and that happens on a lot of, like, you know, late silver Hulks and things like that, some Tales to Astonish, things like that. Sometimes a lot of times those centerfolds come detached, but the books are really nice. So you know, a detached centerfold tops out at 7.0. Well, if you've got a 9.4 book but the centerfold's detached, well, that would bring it down to a 7. So from a 9.4 to a 7 is, you know, more than 2 full points. It's 2.4. So since that's greater, you know, 2 points or greater difference just for that one defect, they will give it a 9.4, but they'll give it a green label and say centerfold detached. Basically qualified. It's a 9.4, but it's qualified because there's a huge defect that brings it all the way down further than 2 points, but we're not going to count it, but we're going to let you know what it is. You know, if some Hulk 181 missing a value stamp is incomplete, that would drop it down to a 2.0. You can have incompletes up to a 2.0. But if you got a 6.5 copy of a Hulk 181, but the coupons or the Marvel value stamps cut, you know, 6.5 down to 2, that's 4.5 points. That's a more than 2-point difference for that one defect. They will give it a 6.5 with a green label and it'll be qualified. Now, if you have a 1.5 Hulk 181 and the Marvel value stamp's missing, you know, you're only at a 1.5 anyway. That's not dropping it down more than 2 points. So they will count it in and you will maybe get a 1.0 incomplete, but it'll be a blue label. So that's the 2 types of green labels. Now the married part's easy to figure out. The other one, basically, if a single defect has more than a 2-point effect on the grade, they'll give it the higher grade with the green label and mention the defect. And it doesn't matter what the defect is. It could be a missing Marvel value stamp, a gigantic tear through the pages of a minty book. It can be any number of things, but it's one single defect. So those are the 2 types of green labels. So I can't remember what your question was at this point, but I think I answered a lot of stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, I figured it's going to be a green label. So now there's multiple parts to this question, right? So, okay, we know it's a green label. And yes, Biggie Shack asked if I knew that buying it. And yes, that's one of the reasons why I got it at the price that I got it. But, and I knew it didn't have a back cover. I knew I was going to hunt one down and I knew that I could find one. So it worked out. But the other question is the staples. So I took the old staples out and I found another book, a donor book that had the same staples, the same date, you know, the same publication month and year. So I put new staples in there, but I made new holes for the new staples. Yeah. So I did not put them in the same holes as the old staples. And the reason that I did that was if the rest of it were considered not married, right? Which I don't see how they could not consider it married. But let's say the book was not a married book and wasn't automatically going to be a green label. If you take staples out, and even with period specific staples, put new staples back in the same holes, won't it get a purple label because it is restored? No. As opposed to staples added? Like, don't they say staples replaced instead of staples added?
No. Here's the deal. If you replace staples, they used to consider that restoration. We're talking CGC essentially. I mean, if you just have a raw book, selling it to a collector who collects raw books, none of this really matters. It's what are you happy with? But CGC used to give restored labels to replace staples. They changed their conservation and restoration rules a little bit a couple years back, and now staples being replaced is considered conservation, which is a gray strip on a blue label. And that's important to note because restoration is a completely different label. It's purple and there's no blue on it. Conservation is a blue label, but it's got a gray strip up top. And I think what they're telling you with that is that this is a legit unrestored book. It's a Blue Label book, but it's got some conservation to it. So they put a gray strip on the top. So, you know, the reason they do that is because it's still a Blue Label book, and it's just you can't give it a full Blue Label, but they've got to point out the conservation because it's significant enough change to the book. But it's still Blue Label, but just with a gray strip. So Staples Replaced are now conservation, Blue Label with a gray strip. Staples Added, that's not restoration either. They will normally note that on the label, and it will affect the grade, and they will, you can get a Blue Label, and it'll say Staples Added after manufacturing or non-manufacturing. But it's not going to be restored with extra staples added. If you take the staples completely out and don't replace them, it'll say staples removed, and it'll note that on the label, and it will be graded accordingly, but it will still be a Blue Label. So staples, you really can't go wrong with staples unless you clean them. If you clean the staples, you scrape them off the rust, you use a chemical solvent on them, you know, they look at these things under a magnifying glass there. You can see when a staple's been cleaned. If you clean the staples, that'll be restoration. But replacing them, adding them, taking them out, none of that's restoration.
So what about the conserved? So there's no way to get away from the conserve label if you change the staples in any way. Well,
here's the thing. I think a purple or a green label trumps the conservation label. So if you have conservation and restoration on it, the restoration trumps and you get a purple label. If you have conservation and a qualifying thing like Married Pages, that trumps it and you get the green label. And they will still note the conservation on there, but you're not going to get a green label with a gray strip or a purple label with a gray strip. You're going to get a green label or a purple label. Those trump everything. So if you've got conservation and restoration and Married Pages, you're probably going to get a restored label.
Okay.
Well, wait, what did I say? Yeah, if you have restoration, conservation, and Married Pages, you'll probably get a purple label, yeah. But they'll note...
Or green. Huh? I thought I was going to get a green.
Well, you will because you don't have any restoration. But if you put color touch on that, you're not getting a green anymore, and you're not getting a gray strip. You're going to get a purple.
Really?
Yeah. You put
so purple's the worst, basically, and they go to the worst one.
Yeah, you go to the worst one, and the rest will be noted on the label. Like you would get a purple label, and it will say color touch, staples replaced, back cover married. But it'll be all on a purple label because the worst thing is sort of trumps. It goes, you know, it trumps up to the worst thing. So that's basically how it works.
It's kind of like crimes, you know. I mean, if you do murder and you do petty theft, you're going to do, you know, life, not
exactly
a couple years, right? So,
yeah, good analogy. I was trying to come up with an analogy. That's perfect. Yes, that's exactly right.
Oh, that's funny. Well, hopefully none of that's going on here, but I got to tell you, one good thing about this book, DS, you know, I was looking for this book, probably hunting it pretty hard for about a year. Yeah. And I looked at several copies of this book that were on like Comic Link and Comic Connect. And, you know, that's a good, I hate to be this way, but if you don't mind purple labels and you don't mind green labels, Comic Connect is a great place for those books and Comic Link because people don't want to put them on eBay because they have to lower the price so hard, you know, and you can still make offers on at least Comic Connect. I know you can. So, you know, anyway, so there were lots of books on there, this book. And the green label looks really good with all this green on there. And the purple label looks really good with all that purple on there. I actually liked the look of the green label and the purple label better than the blue label. And if I didn't know anything about it, you know, and it didn't matter to me, then I would have picked a purple or a green because it looks so pretty with the cover.
Well, you can always send it to EGS and get a customized colored label. I mean, for a book like that, it's actually not a bad idea because you're not reselling it. You're not you bought it as a project. You worked on it. You know, he'll give you a nice slab, and he's got some grading skills, which you're not. I mean, you sort of know where the grade is. It's not like, you know what I mean. You're not worried about what the grade's going to be on that.
It's a 0.5. No matter who I send it to, it should get a 0.5.
Well, it might not get a 0.5. I mean, look, I've got.
It's rough.
0.5 is the lowest you can get, and that's a beat book that's incomplete or complete and just beat to hell. But I've got a book that is old. It's the front and back cover are split completely, detached completely, and taped back together, and it's a 1.5. Mm-hmm. So that's probably not a 0.5. That's probably a 1.0. It might be a 1.5. I mean, it's not.
I think it's a 0.5. I'm gonna send it in, assuming a 0.5, and then go from there. Yeah. I think that when you have a book like this that they see plenty, it's not like some kind of rare book or golden age book. I think if it was a golden age book, I could do better, but it's just silver age, and they're so much easy. They grade the golden age so much easier. They give so many more allowances. For a golden age book.
I don't know.
I think if it was,
I don't feel like I'm getting all these allowances you think are being we're not feeling that benefit down here at the bottom there, I'll tell you. But for Rangery and joining, we're talking about different condition issues, restoration, conservation, just different issues about comic books and how it affects the grading, and how it affects the slabbing at CGC to some degree. That's what we're talking about. Some people were asking.
Well, when I look at this book, and I think I personally, I don't EGS or whatever they are. They don't have a market. They're not viable for resale. I don't need their opinion on a book as far as the grade goes. Like I would never send a book in and be shocked by the grade. Like I can grade well enough that I'm not going to believe their grade better than mine at this point. And you can say, oh, well, he's got training, he's got this, he's got that. I don't really care. It's just a number on a book. And the only point really to me of truly grading the book, and I don't mean the conservation of it, I mean the actual, or the preservation of it. I mean the actual grade number is if you're going to sell it and you don't want any confusion as to what the grade is. And with EGS having no market share, no resellability of any kind, and also no real security. They got 3 pieces of security tape on there. That's not resellable in any way. And the product that they're selling is already available. Area 51 Mike makes a ton of them. All his slabs, or most of his slabs, are all done in that Comic Skins slab. So. The only thing he's really selling is that grade number, and it's a pretty expensive buy because you're not getting anything more than that grade number, and it costs more than slabbing it yourself. I can print a label. Anybody probably these days can print a label or get one printed. So I don't see any market for that. I think that they're completely out of the grading market conversation.
Yeah, they are. I wouldn't send. I don't plan on sending any books to him at all, but. My point is, if somebody has a book like that they want in an official slab that's by he's a trained grader. He knows more than the average person about grading, and he grades books for a living essentially. I mean, it's not, if you've got a book in your PC like that Daredevil and you want him to get graded by a professional and slab, and it's not going to hold any special resale value, but it will look cool on the wall, and you can get a customized label, and it will be graded by a professional. And I mean, he's not the most experienced professional in the world, but if you ever wanted to sell it, what I would do is I would crack it out at EGS slab and then just resell it is what I would do. But I mean, I'm talking about something like, somebody has, I'm not talking about the person who sends 200 slabs to CGC a year. They're not going to use EGS. But I mean, if somebody has that Daredevil like you have, that's for their PC, that's got issues, and they just want to pick the label color. I mean, something like EGS, or do it yourself. But I mean, it takes work to do this stuff yourself. Not all of us have time. You can send it to him, and he'll give you a label color, and then if you want to sell it down the road, you crack it out of that and sell it, raw, or get it slabbed by a better value company like CGC or CBCS. But I'm not advocating it. It's an option for a book like that you're not planning to resell, that you just want to have a specific presentable look to it and be graded. So I was just throwing it out there. But I send everything to CGC, and I'm not going to use EGS, but whatever.
Okay. Well, Roger, you got anything at him or throw up yourself? Are you ready to throw anything up, Roger?
Well, you know, I sort of am old school when it comes to these issues. Like, I don't really care what CGC or EGS or CLC or TBS or whoever says is restoration or not. Okay, so let's get that clearly up front. Like what you did to that Daredevil, Bub, I think is spectacular, because let's think of this as art, right? And you
Okay.
took something which was very unpleasing to the eye with, yeah, I think it had some water damage and some staining, missing pieces.
Oh yeah, I cleaned the stain. Man, the
Mhm.
stains were horrible on this book.
And you've made
Ugh.
it very presentable. You've made it, to me, you have restored it, and I use that as a positive. You've restored it to a previous condition, the condition that made it, you know, more appealing to the buyer or the collector, whoever is in the market for
Or just to
that
me,
particular
yeah.
item. Okay, so to me, you know, if you want to send it in and get, that's your prerogative. But to me, as of right now, you have done a service to the community, because now you have taken a book which may have been used as a, perhaps even as an example of a 0.5 or whatever, and now it's something that, you know, that you treasure. It's a book that you've wanted. It's a book you have in your collection. It's you know, kudos to you for rescuing, and let's use that term, that comic.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
to
like
me,
that.
anytime that you can do that, regardless of what some third you know, party company that is in the business of getting your comic graded, which is, to me, again, you all know my disdain for that, because to me, every comic has a history, it has a personality, it has you know, it has its own little character, and to do, and for you to enslab something, it sort of denies you the nuances of the comic. So unless, you know, unless it's a very rare one and things like that, or things that you're going to sell because there are issues in that comic having restoration, or the grade, the minutia of a 9.6 versus a 9.8 to me is ludicrous. But those kinds of hair splitting issues are not what I'm about. But I do believe that we can educate people on how to take care of, how to elongate the life of their collections by giving them some tips, practical tips about how to care for their comics. Okay, and this is something that I've been
Well,
doing, you know, since time immemorial, since both of you probably were in diapers. And
aha!
okay,
Shows
so
you. I just crapped on the floor.
so let
No
me
diapers for this jungle, baby. In the jungle, we crap on the floor.
That's Bub the Beast coming out there. I have to check out that
Oh, sorry,
video,
sorry.
the hunt thing. I heard that it was spectacular. So okay, let me ask you this: what are the three?
Yeah.
What are the three passive enemies of comic books?
I would say moisture,
Okay.
sunlight,
Okay.
um, and I'd hate to say it, but any kind of bug or
Well, that's not passive. That's more of an outside influence, or aggressive influence. You got the first
all
two.
right,
One
then I
more.
give up.
One more.
I don't know. What's the third?
DS.
DS, you know it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say humidity and light.
Well, there's one more, and that is air.
Heat.
Well,
Well, yeah.
heat and air. Again, that's temperature, light, and air are sort of analogous to that. But air has pollutants.
Yeah.
And those pollutants
Oh,
can
yeah.
cause things like foxing, mold, tanning, and can also brittle the book because of the way that the certain atmosphere. For example, if you're in Denver, like the Mile High collection, that was out, you know, without any protection except they were just stacked on top of each other. Yet they have pristine white pages because the low humidity environment does not allow the acids to start fuming outside of the book. In other words, the fumes are what causes that brittleness and that tanning. So if you can do this, if you can control, those are three things you can control. You can control light, you can control humidity to a certain degree, and you can control the air intrusion. Okay. So again, if you just want to have basic conservation methods for your comic, put it in, have, if you're in a high humidity environment, have some humidity eliminators, one for every 5 feet or so, and put it up above, because remember, humidity comes from above. So have it above your comics. Light, you can get, UV is, of course, the enemy of the comic. So if there's direct sunlight, you can get blockout blinds. You can get diode lights if your lights are on all the time in the room you have your comics. So that you can take care of that, and you can also take care of if you put your comics in a box and bagged and boarded fairly tight, then a lot of air will not get intrusion into the comic. I've had comics for 40 years that have white pages, just because if you have just a bit of a press in a box, air does not intrude into it as much, especially if you can cover it like with a just a lid or something, then air does not get in there. So those three kinds of just basic tenets of comic book, shall we say, just the basic take care of your stuff will probably be enough to take care of your comics through your lifetime or close to it. Anyway, I just wanted to say that those are the kind of just basic things you can do to take care of your comics, and you don't have to go to extremes. Now, some people put comics in, like if they're smoky, they can put them and extract the smoke. You can make a chamber that with those carbon-based rocks and so forth to extract the smoke. But if you just take care of your comics just in those three methods, and again, some of my comics I've had for 40 years and they look the same as when I bought them. Some of them don't, because Metarog was not that careful right at the beginning, and he would read them and throw them and so forth. But if you take care of them, you don't have to slab everything. If you just take basic care of your comics and you're moderately careful, you put them in boxes, bags, boards, with anti-acid backing boards, your comic should be fine for at least 40 years.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that.
And we've talked about that before. I'm total agreement with you, Roger. And the reason that I slab all my books and you slab none of your books really has nothing to do with how we think this type of paper and art should be preserved. Ironically, I like slabs. I like the look and the feel of them, and I like to preserve the value. And I sell a lot of books and I buy a lot of books, so it's much easier to move in the market as a seller. And it's pretty sure what you're getting as a buyer, especially for Golden Age. But yeah, I mean, you're completely right. I mean, and this is they're trying to goad me into going on a Mylar rant in the chat.
I see that. Right. I was wondering if you were going to mention it.
Egging you on there, aren't they? Yeah.
I haven't putting anything down here, but I wondered if you were going to bite on it.
Oh, I'll bite on that. I'll take that bait every time. But if you guys don't want to hear about Mylars, I won't talk about Mylars. But that's just part of why look. For the books that I don't have slabs yet or whatever, I've just put in poly bags. And yeah, if you just control the air, the humidity, and the light, you don't need Mylars. You can just basically stack them up in a closet, and they'll just get a little spine roll essentially, but they'll be in fine condition. So yeah, I mean, as long as you control those factors, you're good to go, and you don't need any special things to preserve them. But you do a little bit, and you be careful, and we're OCD about it, and it's nice to put them in the bag and board. Yeah, I mean, I go on a Mylar rant if y'all want me to, but whatever.
We've been there.
Yeah, I know.
We've been there several times, actually. Yeah.
So I was going to show this real quick. Roger was talking about those moisture things. So I've got one of these damp rid things to keep the moisture down in the comic room. and literally I had it put in a place in my comic room close to my filing cabinet, and it sat there. No water had collected at the bottom of it for months. And then all of a sudden it filled up in this. It was like over a course of a week.
Mm-hmm.
It filled this much. So I don't know what changed in the temperature outside or what the air in the room changed. I also was moving it around the room, finally trying to find a spot that might have more moisture than other places. And finally, I put this under my desk, under where I film and everything, and that's where it finally started collecting moisture. So, I don't know if that makes a difference. It's probably just where I sweat from the knees while I'm filming. This is jungle juice, baby. I'd say that's all it is.
Yeah, and that's good stuff to have. You can get those dampers, but there's different kinds. All these things, what we're talking about now, fall into a category called desiccants.
Correct. And
you can have moisture absorbers that will take water out of the air, but they also have ones that absorb oxygen. They take oxygen out of the air. So the different types of desiccants it will do different things. There's some that take smoke, like those lava rocks are good at taking smoke and pollutant out of the air.
Those carbon-based rocks, yeah.
Yeah, and when you buy like a package of beef jerky or something, they have those little packets in there. Those are oxygen.
Silica packs.
Yeah, those don't take the moisture out; they take the oxygen out.
They take oxygen, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a number of different things. The dampered things are good for the rooms, and then I also have like little packets that I put in the boxes where the comics are, and they're just little packets of you can shake them like little silica packets, sort of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have to go crazy, but if you were just mindful of it, I have a blackout curtain. I keep my stuff away from the light. I try to eliminate humidity, and yeah, they'll last beyond me. They'll last longer than I will. So,
now,
I do like the protection of a slab for fragile old books, but
yeah, no,
I know it's not needed to slab them. I could preserve them just as well in a poly bag.
You certainly could.
Yeah. The most dangerous method would be the Mylars. If I put them in Mylars, because
here we go.
Here we go. It's like razors.
Here we go. You just made a lot of people happy in the chat there.
I know they want to hear me about Mylar.
I want to hear your rant. Now there was something I wanted to say that, and this is true. And again, you have to sort of experiment, right? But there are some publishers and some types of paper which are much more sensitive to certain environmental changes than others, right? And Charlton, for example, man, let me tell you, I've had a heck of a time with some of them. I mean, they have to me, they've had the issues that I cannot keep the paper white. It keeps kind of going creamy and sometimes tanned on me. And again, same conditions as my Marvels, my DCs, my Dells, my Gold Keys, etc. But they either used a very cheap pulp or they put some kind of ingredient in there that over time just does not, the acid fumes just seem to be coming out of that paper. No matter what you do, you can put acid-free boards. I haven't tried anything like a low oxygen environment, but other than that, everything else has been the same kind of environmental factors, have had the same factors. But so Charltons to me are problematic in that sense. So if you can find a white page Charlton that's more than 40 years old, keep it, because that is a rare bird.
That's a good idea. I think if you find any Charlton 40 years old, just go ahead and keep it anyway. Might as well.
Yeah, true. I will.
I think that one of the things for me, and I know I get a lot of, the problem is when you're in so many camps, anytime you're standing in one camp, you're likely to get, poo flung at you from another. So, but basically I'm the type where I like to evaluate each individual situation and move on from there. I don't generally like to slab a book that has a story in it that's important to me for whatever reason. So, and especially if there's no reprint of that book or anything like that. If it's purely a cover buy, if I bought it just because it's a piece of art, to me, it's no different than putting it in a frame. And I honestly don't care about the grades. It's just the presentation. When you hold a slab, it feels heavy. It has a different, it hits different receptors in my brain that make me happy, right? It releases a certain type of endorphin. Okay, it's slab endorphins.
Slab endorphins.
Yes, there's something about it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the same way. It's the same way that when people open a book and they say they smell the book, and it does something to their brain. You know, it's probably, you know, what is that, toxoplasmosis. But if it's not that, yeah,
not a
from
disease.
From cat piss in the book. But it's either that or there's something, you know, there's endorphins in my brain that goes off when I smell a certain book. But honestly, when my nose can't smell the difference between a Daredevil 1 and a Daredevil 8. It doesn't know the difference. I know the difference. It's about an $800 difference. But my nose can't tell the difference. So I can still have all those enjoyments from other books. Doesn't have to be this book. And I have a reprint of this book. I have 2 reprints of this book. So it doesn't have to be, I don't need it to read the story. And I'm kind of, it's a project for me. And that's the fun. That's the fun I'm getting out of it, is to take a book that I didn't know was marry more to it, change the staples, clean it up, press it up, and try and shoot for a certain thing, which is a green label 0.5 or better. That's what I'm to stay away from purple and try and get it green 0.5 or better. So that's something that I'm trying to do. Other books, I don't care at all if they're slabbed. I'll probably never slab them. And for my Golden Age books, I've more or less settled on doing the comic skins. So I'm going to do all the comic skins with custom labels myself. And it still costs like 15 or 16 bucks a book. You know, it's expensive to preserve or display a book, or especially if you're doing both.
Right.
So, you know, so for me, every book, here's a book, you know, Swamp Thing 1, I paid a decent amount for that compared to, you know, certainly not $1 book. And I'll never slab that book. I have no reason. There's no reprints of it that I'm aware of. And I want to read it over and over again. And I'm trying to collect that run of 10, the first 10 Swamp Things, the Bernie Wrightson set. And so that'll never be slabbed, even though it's a relatively expensive book and it's, you know, in decent condition. Probably get I would say probably a 3.5. But, you know, who cares? I'll never slab it. So there's certain books I'm never going to slab, and there's certain books I can't wait to slab. So, and there's other books like my Golden Age collection. You know, my whole run of Planet Comics, my goal is to have all of those in those comic skins. That way they all match. I can read them whenever I want, although I also can read them digitally, and that's something else. You know, I don't usually read very many books digitally, but I read Golden Age digitally, because a lot of times the print on the Golden Age books are hard to read by themselves. Like they're tough. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways that you can enjoy. There's only certain ways you can enjoy each individual book. Like once this is slabbed, the only way I'll be able to enjoy this book is by looking at it, right?
Yeah.
But once, you know, but I can still enjoy this book in all the ways I can't enjoy this book. And then there's one way I'll never enjoy that book, and that's as a slab. So, like I said, I put my foot in so many different camps. I don't, and you know, you talk about Mylar, which is what I started talking about when DS was just coming off his Mylar mini rant, very, very small. It's the smallest one we've ever had. Is that when I have Mylar for Silver Age books. That's it. All my Silver Age, and of course I put my Bronze Age and Moderns in the silver size too. But once it gets to the size of a Golden Age book, I put it in polybag, because I don't like the Golden Age Mylars. I happen to agree that the Golden Age Mylars are sharper for some reason. They're harder. They are scarier to put a book in that. And the Golden Age polybags are usually very big and loose, and it doesn't scare me to take a book in and out of it. So there you go. I'm in both camps on that too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said this recently when I did a chat on my channel about, you know, however you enjoy the hobby is perfectly fine, and everybody enjoys the hobby differently. And yeah, I enjoy slabbing almost every single book that passes through my hands. But for the most part, you know, at this point, I have a very small PC, all Golden Age stuff. which I slab for a particular reason. That has, somewhat to do with preservation, but more to do with value and sort of security on them or whatever. But, everything else, I sell a lot of books. I flip a lot of books, and it's just more profitable to do that with slabs for a number of reasons we don't need to go into right now. But so that I enjoy the hobby. Slabbing books is a large part of how I enjoy the hobby. Now, I can't read those books. I don't buy Golden Age books to read. I buy them as collectible, valuable pieces of art. I'm sort of more like an art collector, an art dealer. I'm not a comic book reader. I'm an art collector, sort of is how I see myself. And that's how I enjoy the hobby. I don't read every single book that goes through my hands. And, most of the books in my PC I haven't actually read because they're slab, they're Golden Age, and they're for the cover art mainly. And I mean, that's how I enjoy it. Some people enjoy, somebody said in the chat, slabbing New Comic Book Day comics or True Believers. People are slabbing those. I don't see the point of it, but, people like to have, an X-Men 101 to display. They don't want to spend a lot of money on a legit one, but they want a mint-looking X-Men 101 to display with some of their other slabs. Buy a slab True Believers or get your True Believers 101 slabs. That's how they enjoy it. That makes sense, actually, if that's what they're doing. I see people throw them on eBay. They want $200 for a 9.8 of a True Believers. You're not going to sell it for that much, probably. But, there's a place for that, and everybody enjoys the hobby differently, and it's all good, man. Whatever you do to enjoy the hobby is good, and you got your foot in numerous camps, bub. Roger is a much more sort of honest, genuine comic lover than I am, to a degree, because I sort of love art, but he genuinely loves comics, and he reads them. He doesn't want to entomb them in plastic. He uses that all the time. It's like a coffin for comics, and he likes to read them and handle them. And yeah, I mean, that's a love of the comic book in its full form from front back to back cover. I enjoy the hobby a little differently than that, and it's all good. I mean, everybody's got their own reasons. Some people love risking their books with Mylars. I am not one of them. I'm not going to spend extra money to put my
he was sneaky with that one. He kind of just slipped it in there.
He almost put me to sleep
in a positive direction, and boom. Oh, DS, you are a crafty one, sir. You are a crafty one.
But my books in Mylar look fantastic. There you go.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that just because I do things my way, I don't mean. And if it came out that way, I apologize. I don't mean to intimate that everybody should emulate what I do. Certainly not.
It's awesome. Everybody has different ways they enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the variety is a fabulous thing. I mean, I think the world without different races and cultures and traditions would be just boring. So I think it's fabulous, and I can appreciate people who pick up new comics, people who slab comics. It's not for me. It doesn't make sense for me. But that doesn't, I don't have the amount of hubris to think that my way is the only way and the best way.
No, you're holding on to a tradition.
It's how I have grown to love and respect and cherish these things. So and also because I'm from an older generation than perhaps a lot of you. But to me, any way that you can advertise, that you can love, that you can appreciate a comic, there's no wrong way to collect. It's just your way and my way and others' way. That's it.
Here's the thing, though. A lot of us are very passionate about this hobby. And with passion comes, on occasion, for some, and I would say probably for a lot, that there is an intolerance line where sometimes when you're so passionate about the hobby that you feel like someone is doing something that you find almost offensive because of the way that they're doing it. For instance, if someone's way to collect comics was to go out and spend $400 every week and buy a key book and then put it through a shredder and film it, I think that would offend most comic collectors.
That's not collecting. What
if they enjoy confetti? What if they like the smell of 50-year-old confetti? There's just certain things. I know that's extreme. You can get a lot of
Red Book magazines for cents at the local flea market.
I know. I'm just saying that's obviously an extreme example, but that's just so that my next example, which is personal to me, doesn't seem as extreme. So you see what I'm setting a boundary here. So for me,
untrimming.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Well, for me, one of the problems that I have is when I see someone like DS doesn't like seeing True Believers slabbed. Do you think?
I don't mind seeing them slabbed, but I think some people see them slabbed and then they think, "Oh, I'll slab a bunch of True Believers and get $200 a pop." That's a retarded strategy to make money, is what I think. But
okay, fair enough.
True Believers slabbed for their collection, yeah, that's cool. But there are some people that want that, and then other people who want to sell them see that, and they're like, "Oh, wow, I'll buy a bunch of True Believers and slab them, and then people will pay me a ton of money." Not so much. That's not really how it works. But
well,
I don't have a problem with True Believers in a collection. I mean, it makes sense if you want to display it with other slabs. Yeah, it's cool.
I think slabbing facsimile covers is ridiculous. And every time I see one, I want to pull my hair out.
You mean like a coverless book that somebody put a copy cover on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. And then slab it. And then you slab it.
You can only see the parts that are artificial to the book.
Yeah, but right. I mean, what looks worse though? Slabbing the coverless copy and then it just looks like crap. I mean, they can't.
Yeah, but at least it is. Hey, I once knew a guy that used to say, if your book is sick, it's sick. A coverless AF-15 is a sick AF-15. It may still be one that I want, but it's a sick AF-15.
Well,
it's coverless.
I wouldn't
so slab it coverless.
I wouldn't slab a coverless book with a photocopied cover on it, but I do see people doing that. I would slab it without the cover so that you could see that it is a complete interior and it would be easy to sell and marketable down the road. And that's why I would do it, but I wouldn't do it for the look of it and put a photocopy cover over it because that's not really the cover.
I agree, but there are some collectors in or out of the community, however you want to look at it, that do that and will bring their books. I just got a CGC haul. I'm like, what the heck is that? It's an Avengers #1 with a facsimile cover. I'm like, what the hell? Like, doesn't make any sense at all. You know, I'm just glad to own this book. And I'm like, you can enjoy it. Now you can enjoy that book on 0 levels. And that's my problem.
Area 51 makes a good point. He says True Believers make a great comic wall. And if you think about it, we don't have money, most of us, for original art, but we buy prints and we'll get prints signed and we will put prints in a frame and hang them on the wall. You know, that's not the real.
Is that Purple Rain you're talking about there? Or?
No, I mean, if you get a print.
Not Prince.
Oh.
Print.
No, not print. He's not called Prince anymore. He's just the artist anyway, but well, maybe he just goes by that symbol now. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're slabbing True Believers to put on your wall, isn't that the same as getting a print signed and framed, or just framing a print or framing a poster? It's not an original, but you're framing it. Why would you be framing that? Because it looks cool on the wall, man. I mean, that's why some people slap True Believers for their PC. Doesn't mean it's a good strategy to go out and buy a bunch of True Believers for $1, slab them, and throw them on eBay for $200. That's a bad strategy to make money. But it's not so bad if you want to slab the True Believers and put them on your wall, man. You'd have a killer-looking wall. I mean, it's essentially a wall of prints of this expensive art. It makes sense as a PC to do that. Really, for me, I could see it.
Yeah, I can see that too. That doesn't bother me. At least you're slabbing what it is. At least it still is what it is, right? But the fact is taking a piece of history and slapping it, sandwiching it between photocopies, and then slabbing it just aggravates me when I see it. You know, a couple people in the chat are talking about signatures on big books, how people hate those. I think that I don't want to say every collector, but I think a lot of us who would consider ourselves very tolerant of how other people collect, and, you know, everyone collect how you want to collect, and I'm just glad there are people collecting that kind of thing. We still have something in us that's like, wait a minute, but I accept everything except this, you know? Like we're all drawing some imaginary line around some obscure tiny thing and just saying everything but that, just not that, you know?
You know, as a flipper, or as the flipper part of me, when I have my flipper hat on and I'm buying books to resell for money and profit, I avoid books that are signed, whether they be raw or slabbed. I essentially avoid signed books. They're not good to flip. Now that sounds weird. Why would you not do that? Well, you know, raw books that are signed are not good to flip because, yeah, you can clean and press a book with a signature. It can smear a little bit if you're not careful when you're during the pressing process and you add moisture to it, but you can't get it slabbed by CGC. You have to use CVCS. That takes a long time. It brings less in the market. It's not worth the time and money to get it slabbed with a green label at CGC or wait for a CVCS that goes for less and get a red label. And so I stay away from the raw ones that are signed because people want more from them. And it doesn't feel like I'm getting it on the back end because of those reasons. And if it's already slabbed with a signature, it's, you know, people want more for them. You're not going to get a discount if you're buying them to resell unless it's a hot book. But then I can find that hot book without the signature much cheaper and raw, and I can save a ton of money on the front end of it. But then you're looking for a specific market, a specific person who wants that signature. And it, you know, people are weird about the placement of the signature, and it's just, you can't crack it out and press it either because then you can't retain the yellow label. So, you know, as a flipper, I avoid signatures. You know, for me, I see a signed book, I'm out. I'm not interested, raw, slabbed, or at all. And, you know, for my personal collection, I don't like signatures because it's writing on the cover of the book. I mean, I like date stamps. There's a cool sort of character feel to the date stamps. But writing on the cover, essentially, I don't like Stan Lee signatures. I mean, he signs in the worst place. It's so marring to the cover. You know, it's nice way I can put it. It mars the cover so badly that I have seen AF-15s signed by Stan Lee over Spider-Man's face, and it is a national tragedy to me. And I'm so sad when I see that. And, you know, I'm the jerk maybe because somebody bought that and it's the prized piece of their collection. But for me, I just think it's so ugly to have a big Sharpie Stan Lee across Spider-Man's face on an AF-15. It's like you've destroyed that book, and it's ruined in my personal subjective view. So you got to keep that in mind. But you can rub people the wrong way when you know, point out where your line and your preferences are, and that's what I do often, and I'm fine with that. Well, I don't care. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that agree with me that aren't as outspoken about it, but I hate Stan Lee signatures. 99% of them are in the worst spots on the cover. But I don't really like. Look, Walt Simonson has a cool signature, very artistic. You know, Clayton Crane's is pretty cool, very distinct, cool, like modern cursive feel to it. Adam Hughes is cool because it doesn't even look like it's really signed. It's sort of an artistic symbol, you know. So there's exceptions to every rule, but you know, when Stan Lee scribbles across the front of you know, Punisher's chest on an ASM 129, I feel like that's brought the value down.
Well, and so I'm in multiple camps. Again, when it comes to signatures, you guys know I like to collect signatures. I like to collect signatures on key books or on just pieces of art that I really like. So, and that puts me in some odd categories there because I like books that are signed like by the artist. If I bought the book because it was a good cover, then I want it signed by the cover artist. So it irks me when I see great covers that are like then signed by Marv Wolfman or something. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, like
yeah, he had nothing to do with that cover.
Yeah, have him sign the inside. If he wrote the book, have him sign the inside of the book. You know, now Stan Lee, you know, because he was a co-creator, he gets his signature on a lot of covers that obviously he didn't draw. So, you know, I can understand that if it's a character that he created, but you can see a lot of times people get like a Wolverine #1, a limited series #1 signed by Stan Lee. I'm like, what the hell's going on there?
No, listen, I got the best one ever. There was a 9.8 signature series signed by Stan Lee, Spawn 228, an image book with a McFarlane cover, and it's a cover homage to Action Comics 1. Has nothing to do with Stan Lee.
Wow.
Signed over the image of Spawn throwing the car into the rock. Signed by
oh my gosh!
Certified by CGC, and the guy was selling it at the time wanted like, I don't know, $350 for it or something. And it's like, what the hell, man? That book is ruined forever now, and it has nothing to do with him. You know, it's cool to have a Stan Lee signature to a degree because he's such a huge figure in the history of comics. You know, the number one in the history of comics as far as a person in the hobby. But I mean, you have your pick of Stan Lee signatures. There's about 2 billion of them out there. So if you're going to go for one, pick one that's in a decent spot. You know, that's my thought on it. But yeah, Michael Dodd said he likes when it's signed on the bottom of the splash page. I think that's cool.
Well, see, that drives me crazy too, DS. They sign I've seen. So I've been looking. One of my grails is to get a Dave Stevens signed cover. Okay, but a lot of Dave Stevens signatures, of course, they're not making any more of those, right? So a lot of Dave Stevens signatures are signed on the splash page, or they're personalized on the cover. And a lot of the times they'll take a book that's signed on the splash page and then send it to CBCS for signature verification.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
And so, well, it's retarded. Excuse me for anyone who actually is retarded, but you get what I'm saying. It's ridiculous because you have a book that's signed on the inside that you now can't see the signature of. Then you slab it, and now the only reason that I even know it's signed is because the little pink/red label tells me that it's signed. I can't handle that.
The signature is not the work of art. Like, it's not so great looking that you need to stare at the signature. Like, to know that it's signed is, and this is why Stan Lee signatures are valuable, even though they're ugly and just disruptive to the art on the cover, because it's not the look of the signature that matters. So it's the fact that it is signed, that it was held by that person, that they put their name on it and their signature on it. It's sort of the idea and the concept of it to me that's important. So I'm fine with slabbing it if it's on the splash page and you can't ever look at it. It's not like, oh my God, I need to see what that Marv Wolfman signature looks like. I mean, it looks like a guy with a ballpoint pen wrote Marv Wolf and never really finished the end of the last name mostly. Yeah, I mean, I really need to see that forever. Like, yeah, he signed it. That's awesome. He signed it. He held his book. He wrote his name on it. Yeah, it's not something I need to look at. It's just cool that it's there. So I'm fine with slabbing those. But I don't know why don't people get these things signed on the back cover? You can get a slab. You can still see the signature. It doesn't affect the cover. I don't understand this, man. I would be getting stuff signed on the back cover all the time if I was at cons. I'd be handing them books with the back cover showing, and they'd be like, "What's this?" I'm like, "That's an AF-15. I want you to sign the back." You know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You got the front cover. You can see the signature on the back.
Smiling guy in the back ad.
I don't know why
we've got clamoring in the chat. We've got to get to the no faces.
Oh yeah,
the why no faces segment. We're 10 minutes over talking about Mylars and slabs and all the other thing DS just wanted to rant about tonight. So signatures, yeah. I mean, it's a DS rant show. That's what we've got going on. So, which is fine. So
well, look, you guys gotta let me. I have to let it out once a month or so because it builds up inside me and it makes me an angry, miserable person. More so than usually.
Oh, quit it. So DS, why don't you tell everybody just what's going on here? Why? Well, first of all, we're showing the no faces because this is why we don't show our faces on camera. This is the main reason, but it's clearly something that affects us all. DS, take it away.
Well, it's like a drug called pause, and pause affects everybody differently, and you never know how it's going to affect you, and it's usually never a complementary type effect that it has on you. So we will show what people look like when they're high on pause, and this is why we don't show our faces.
This is Biggie Shack.
Hey, those are some nice teeth you got up there. Nice teeth there. I like it.
The triple
just
shot
on the top. I don't think he never shows the bottom teeth. I think one of the things that kills me about this one is that these are not cropped. Okay, I don't alter the images in any way. I don't crop them. If you take a ruler to them, whatever, they're all 9:16. They're all just the way they were on a video that they put on, right? Mm-hmm. So I just want you to appreciate how Biggie Shaq's head is cut off in his own video. in all three shots. In fact, in the one on
no.
top, he wanted to show his beard so much that he just didn't even. It's from the mustache down. That's it. That's all he's showing. So I thought that was great.
That is cool.
There you go.
But you see, this is
Biggie
kind of
Shaq
not
on
fair though,
pause.
because this is a video he took while driving, I think, right?
Hey, I don't make the videos. I just pause the videos. It's not my fault.
Listen, I'm just giving a contrasting point of view and some ameliorative kind of aspects to this, and that's a car video. He's driving. There are bumps, there are potholes, there are all kinds of suspension issues here possibly. But the man, I have to give him credit, has some really nice front teeth up there. I'm very jealous.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that it's hard because when you go through his videos, a lot of times he is his immortal Biggie Shaq, the wrestling stuff.
Right.
So I didn't think it was fair that when he's purposefully dressed up and doing the routine, right, to use one of those. Plus, actually, it works pretty good because he's got his, bandana on. He's usually smoking. He's got his glasses and everything. He's got a belt around his shoulder. So, I mean, he's in character. So I thought this was a good one. Had to scour for this one to get one where he's more a la natural. So unless we never know, the others could be more natural. You let us know. We don't know how Biggie walks around the neighborhood. It could be either one.
I don't think that's a persona. I think that is it's like Clark Kent and Superman. What's the alter ego, right? Because I think Superman is the real and so I think Biggie Shaq, his NWO is who he is. I mean, and this this kind of slice of life video is probably just an aberration. I bet you he has that bandana in the glove compartment, and he's obviously not smoking because maybe little Shaq's in the car, something like that.
Well, we appreciate you, Biggie Shaq, for being so kind as to volunteer your mug for the No Faces segment of our show. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Elite Comp Bros. We haven't shouted out chat in a while. We should probably do that here at the end.
The chat at all, except for the right at the beginning.
I tell you, if it weren't for you, Roger, I would never know how wrong I was on a daily basis. I tell you.
You can only appreciate the light when you know where the dark is. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you so much. So why don't you go ahead and shout out the chat before we say goodbye. Thank you all for being here on the No Faces chat. Is there anyone? I think I'm out of volunteers. So if anyone wants to volunteer I think Russ may have volunteered once. If anyone wants to volunteer for our next No Faces comic chat, No Faces segment, let me know. If not,
Russ would be good.
Then don't say nothing.
Russ's Instagram videos are hilarious. I mean, I almost spit up last time I saw one of his videos. So, if you can get him, I mean, that's superstar stuff there. Okay, let's go in the chat because again, we got a lot to cover. This has been a really good participation in the chat today, by the way.
Yes, thank you all.
Mike,
and a quick thank you to hold on. He didn't come into the chat today, but a quick thank you to JB for Discovery Bay Comics. He's back off hiatus or whatever he was on, and back doing Monday videos. So thank you.
Yeah, he was on vacation, I think, also right before I got back. So
I didn't approve that. I didn't approve his vacation.
I have to give into a higher order, the wife. So what she says goes, right? Gray Man has been here for a while. Mike, Knights of Old, has been here since the beginning. So you get the big red star, Mike, for the chat. Michael Dodd is in here. Hi, Leah Comic Bro came in a while back. Raul, great to see you here, buddy. Russ has been here for a while. Pope has been here since I think he was here like first, and then he came back. Biggie Shaq has been just, I mean, his fingers must be like down to the nub because he is like every other chat is Biggie Chat. He is such a great supporter of this chat and of all of us. So thank you, Biggie, for all you do, buddy. Aggressively Relaxing has come up with some really good things in here. Bigglesworth, Doug, and this is a plug here. See my video tomorrow that is coming, that I'm dropping tomorrow, because Bigglesworth has a big part in it. Let's just put it that way.
Oh my. Okay.
All right. DS is in here. Who cares about him? Conquistador, Javi, again, one of my buddies from Florida. Unruly Simeon, who took over for me for the for the Graders Notes and did an excellent job. You guys just killed it. Who else was in here? Let's see. I'm scrolling now.
I think Knights of Old is. I think Bub, you hurt his feelings because he says he was on fire in the chat today too, Bub, and you didn't.
He was.
Didn't shout him out, and he's. I think he's a little hurt.
Yeah,
I posted his comments on the screen several times. I mean, I think he's a little sensitive, honestly.
Yeah, when you said DS, when you said Flipper, he said, "Oh, Flipper the dolphin."
Yeah, and the sheepskin hat or whatever he was talking about.
Yeah, that's right, dolphin skin hat. Life with two YouTubers who they're running a nice, really cool contest. Thank you. I think Sharon is her name. Thank you for being here. Another great supporter. Jason from Heroes to Icons, another great supporter of ours. He's usually here on Mondays. Also supports the Graders Notes. Mike, Area 51, again, one from the beginning of the chat. I think he was in the very first chat that we did.
And the only one I know that agrees with me on Mylar so far.
The only one? No, he's not the only. I'm kind of in your camp there. I'm kind of in your camp. Doomsday Comics. He's been gone for a long time.
Yeah, it's great to see Doomsday.
Great to see Doomsday. He's over in by Houston. His mother was sick for a long time, and my condolences there to you, buddy. Comics for Thomas. Boy, I haven't seen him in a while. Great to see you here. And Evan has been in the chat and has been really hitting it up with Stan Lee opinions. I won't get into any more than that.
Yeah, I did read the opinions he was putting about Stan Lee, and I I agree with them. I'm not going to comment on them.
Yeah, let's not get into that, because then this chat will end in 2022. Unruly Simeon has been here. I've already told him about that. And Pope Cerebus. I think we got pretty much Dead Pulio, the awesome. I don't know if I've seen him before. Werewolf by Lunchtime. Again, our staunch supporter from Perth, right? Perth?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got it right this time. Great.
From the great state of Wisconsin.
Get out of here. Okay. I guess that's about it. I think the rest we shouted out. So great chat today. Really fabulous. Great to be back with you guys. I really did miss everybody in the chat. It's always great to see all my buddies here and of course have this kind of, I think what DS was saying, we need like an outlet for our passions, and this is one of those. If I don't start doing this, I sort of get very comically constipated. So I like to have this kind of outlet. Yeah.
We try and end on a high note.
That's why I went first. Now you two can take it up to a higher level.
Good luck with that. Well, we're running on time. Mrs. DS is going to start tapping the rolling pin on the floor soon. He's out of the basement now. Actually, she let him off his shackles. So
yeah.
So he's up with general population now. So congratulations for that.
Yeah, I need to stay in good graces so I can stay out of the hole.
Yeah, apparently so. I love it. So thank you all. It's been an exciting week. If anybody's got anything coming up soon, DS, you got anything in the works?
No, just Baltimore Comic-Con coming up. I got a bunch of stuff I'm taking to get slabbed, entombed in plastic to sell to people, to get money, to buy other older stuff entombed in plastic for myself.
Are you going to be here next week? Is that next week or?
Yeah, I'll be here. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the con, so I'll be here.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't have to get a hotel or anything even, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Look for those 30-cent variants.
Yeah, I will. I've still I've been keeping my eye out for an Eternals 30-cent variant, and I have yet to find one.
Well, that probably won't slip through the cracks, but
I'll tell you, every time I see a Star Wars one, anywhere, everywhere, I look to see if it's price variant, and I would love to score one of those someday. Somebody that just doesn't realize it before they put it for sale, and I can catch it quick or something.
Yeah, but that's not the test market you're going to.
Yeah, I know.
So it's going to be real tough.
Yeah.
I was telling Mrs. BUB'S, or Jungle Beauty, we'll keep calling her. I was telling old Jungle Beauty over dinner tonight that since DS got to have his way tonight with the topic, that next week we're probably going to have to go over some 30-cent variants to let Roger shine for a night. So we'll see how that goes. We're all talking the same thing there. Roger, you got anything coming up?
Well, I'm should be back to the usual schedule. Tomorrow I'm dropping a video. I found some things in my mom's house and my cousin left me. So I'm showcasing that tomorrow, and I got a very special AOK, which I'm going to be showing tomorrow. And then of course I have the roundup on Thursday. I have to see a lot of videos and see what's happened in the week I've been out. And then I'm going to start another series probably coming next week, but I'm not sure about what exactly, but I'm working on that. So you never know. It'll be obscure. It'll be probably stuff that you haven't seen before. So, check it out.
Sounds good. I like it. This Friday, I think I'm going to be on 2 shows. If the scheduling works out, then I should be on Comigories on Matt the Boy Who Had Seven's channel.
Cool.
And then after that, I'll be on The Hunt defending my world championship title as Bub the Beast on The Hunt later that night. So should work out because I think they're on, you got the West Coast, and then you got, I don't know, whatever Matt's on, Mountain Time or something. So should be okay. So I should be able to do one and then the other. So it'll be a quick, share change. So and I'll be dropping videos all week. I've got a few in the can, and actually I've been, even though I've acquired a lot of books lately, I've been saving a bunch of money for some big boy purchases. Nice. So hopefully I'll be picking up a few of those in the coming weeks. So.
Well, when you're ready, I will sell you my Planet One.
I've thought about it. I don't think I'm close to what you want for it. I don't know. I don't mean to say that as in not what it's worth, but what you want for it. I think it's already slabbed and it's already pretty, and I don't mind getting a rougher one than that. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you for the offer.
Yeah, well, that book's not going anywhere anytime soon. I'll keep it on ice, and at one point down the road, if you decide you want it, I will still have it.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
I'm not selling it to anybody except you, or maybe 10 years down the road or something or whatever. But.
Well, in 9.5 years, I hope I can afford it and get it right before it goes to the open market.
You got to open one of those CDs, and let it accrue interest for 9.5 years. Then you can buy it.
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you all. DS, you want to say your goodbyes?
Yep. Everybody do your homework, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. And Roger?
Yeah, everybody. Great stuff to be back. It's again, I'm just so honored to be able to do this. It's more fun than should be legally allowed, but everybody be blessed and be back.
Thank you. And I'll tell everyone to we'll see you next week on BUB'S Comics channel, but it's the No Faces comic chat with the trio, as JB says, of Metarog, DS, and BUB'S Comics. So thank you. We'll see you next week. Read a comic and don't apologize for the glare. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.